why in a nearly 900 chapter story about pirates has not a single character ever worn an eye patch? And of course, the biggest of all, what exactly is One Piece?
Good. Dark Knight Gang in this thing. Gang. Today I'm about to do another video from Super Eye Patch Wolf. This one right here is titled Why You Should Watch / Read One Piece. Hundreds of y'all told me I should watch this yesterday, bro. Hundreds. If not at least 1,000 to 2,000. So many of you guys were like, Brady, you gotta watch this. Brady, you gotta watch this. Trust me, it's gonna convince you to watch it. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna watch half of it today. We're gonna watch half of it tomorrow, and I'll let you know after tomorrow if I plan on watching One Piece or not. All right. I also read a lot of the comments, and people are like, Brandon, One Piece isn't about the fights. It's about the story. It's about the adventure. That's the kind of that I like, cuz y'all know I like one-player games, adventure games, things with stories. I love shows that have stories as well, like the story in Attack on Titan. That's just fire. But Attack on Titan also has good action too. So anyway, I told y'all, man, if this is the bar to where I need to get to watch One Piece, my guy, I'm like right here. So we'll see after this video. I'm still watching Attack on Titan. I'm on season 4, episode 11 or 12. I think they already came out with episode 13 and 14, maybe. I don't know, I have to check. But anyway, I'm gonna hop into this video. Let's go. So I watched his intro. His intro is like 2.5 minutes. It's pretty dope. Of course, original video down in the description. So if you want to see the intro, bro, just click the original video down in the description. So yeah, we're about to start it from right here. Come on.
The major advantage of having a long-running series is that it allows the author to communicate a much greater degree of information to the reader.
That looks
and while
insane.
this can often be to a series' detriment, with many artists forced to prioritize longevity over quality, in the right hands it can be used to build worlds of immense breadth and scale, ones with stories and characters that would be completely impossible in a shorter context. And this is the primary strength of Eiichiro Oda as a writer, his ability to create and sustain a long-running narrative, and one of the primary ways he does this is by grounding his series in a tangible, believable world. While One Piece is at its heart the story of the Straw Hat Pirates and their quest for the treasure of One Piece, it's the detours and locations along the way that make up the primary bulk of One Piece's story. Each new location in the journey of the Straw Hats has its own unique identity, with its own customs, cultures, economy, and inhabitants. And a huge part of the appeal of sailing the Grand Blue with the Straw Hats is uncovering these locations and discovering the mechanics of how they work.
So you really get to, way of giving you really like dive into the One Piece world, huh?
The most visually outlandish locations, a tangible feeling of place and structure.
They got places.
Take, for example, Whole Cake Island from the most recent arc. It's a magical land where every inanimate object is alive and the buildings are constructed from confectionery. And at first it seems like a kind of Disney-esque paradise, until we find out later how the island became like this. Whole Cake Island is under the control of Big Mom, a massive hulking woman with the power to steal life directly from people and transfer it into everyday objects. A power she's used to transform the island into her own distorted wonderland, where no one can leave and people must sacrifice a segment of their lifespan as tax. This setup alone is already a pretty fascinating way to handle a location. But perhaps even more impressive is the detail that's gone into its creation. If you go to the One Piece wiki, you'll find pages of information about this one island alone, with detailed paragraphs on the 10 different locations that form it, including a floor-by-floor breakdown of Whole Cake Chateau, the home of Big Mom, including detailed descriptions of the first floor library, the 4th floor room of treasure, and the rooftop party hall. If you want to know what the weather...
so the guy who wrote One Piece, or who, I don't know how many people wrote it, he got this detailed That is dope,
like on Whole Cake Island, where and how the residents get their food, or why there are skeletons near the seducing woods.
Yeah, that's
all
crazy.
That information is there for you to dig out. In other words, Whole Cake Island has a tangible sense of geography about it. It feels real because Oda has taken the time to develop it. And what's more, this is just one of the many examples of the extremely fleshed out developed locations that make up One Piece's world. Zou is a massive forest filled with beast people located on the back of a giant elephant, run by a fierce warrior dog during the day and an equally fierce warrior cat during the night. Dressrosa is a giant city with a massive gladiatorial arena inhabited by bizarre toy people, which are all under the heel of a vicious false king. Thriller Bark is a giant haunted ghost ship that literally eats other ships and turns their crew into zombies. And they've all been fleshed out to a similar degree as Whole Cake Island. And it all comes together to create not
all of
just
that
the
is part of
feeling
Whole
of
Cake
one singular
Island?
massive world, but the worlds within worlds that form One Piece's landscape.
Yeah,
and the same ethos applies to the many, many characters who populate it. No character in One Piece is ever constructed in isolation, but rather each individual one has their own allegiances, political geography, history, and driving motivators, many of whom have relationships and backstories entirely isolated from our heroes, like how 100 Beast Kaido and Gecko Moria have beef with each other due to the fact that Kaido was the one who killed Moria's entire crew, forcing him to create the undead army the Straw Hats face off against in Thriller Bark. These slices of character information are often revealed through what seem like tiny throwaway lines, only to become far more relevant to the story later on, to the point that I've lost entire afternoons trawling through the One Piece wiki, going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole, trying to understand how all these characters fit together to create the giant, ever-evolving world that is One Piece. And the fact that Oda has had hundreds of chapters to develop the world of One Piece like this means that he's been able to evolve it into a landscape that begs to be dissected and studied. And if you need proof of this, just look at the communities that have built up around its analyzation and discussion, such as the extremely popular One Piece podcast, currently on its 473rd episode, which discusses in extreme detail each new chapter, with episodes that regularly last over 2 hours. Meaning that even entirely separate from the central narrative of One Piece's story, it's still an utterly fascinating landscape to explore.
Okay, I'll say this. I don't know why I'm stuttering, but that is definitely a great point that he made, bro. The fact that the writer or whoever created the show, they get that detailed into all their bosses. The bosses are not bosses, but bad guys. The bad guys are connected to other bad guys, and it just, that's...
To say, however, that the story
it has nothing to do with Luffy, and let's just keep
One Piece's world isn't vital to its success. It absolutely is.
Okay.
But perhaps just as important as the story Oda tells is the unique way he tells it. Oda is a master in what we're going to refer to as short-term and long-term storytelling. And to really understand why One Piece has endured over the years like it has, we need to understand his work from these two distinct perspectives. Short-term storytelling accounts for the moment-to-moment experience of consuming a piece of narrative, how good a job an author has done in laying out their work that makes it pleasurable to consume. And while I can think of a few manga authors I would consider technically stronger illustrators than Oda, I can't think of any who have the same innate understanding of how to actually make reading a page of manga enjoyable. And even then, when I say there are technically stronger illustrators than Oda, that's not to take away from Oda's work as much as it is to highlight what's special about it. Rather than concentrating on intense rendering or meticulous anatomical correctness, Oda's work has a highly organic, expressive quality to it. He's a master at caricature and stylization, often accentuating the proportions and shapes of his characters to extremes for some of the most hilariously goofy but also strikingly unique designs in the industry. And yet he's also adept at depicting emotion through his drawings, namely by pushing the facial expressions of the different characters as far as they'll possibly go. Joy, malice, desperation, sadness, else, he knows exactly how to depict the human face in order to give the reader the clearest possible conveyance.
I don't think I'm going to read it.
Not only of what a character is
I'd rather
feeling,
watch it,
but just how intensely
I do love
they're
reading.
feeling it. In short, Oda is adept.
Speaking of reading, really quick, have you guys ever read the series? Fuck, what is that series called? Oh, I'm faded, so I can't really think. It has like 13 books. Fucking, why can't I think? I just looked it up. I remember. The Wheel of Time, bro. Have you ever read The Wheel of Time? Fire. That's the kind of stuff that I like to read. I told you I'm a huge nerd, bro.
Every aspect
I read
of
that
manga
years
writing,
ago.
including the unique way he lays out pages. Even from its earliest days, it was always designed to be this way. Oda has actually been writing different versions of One Piece since he was a child. After being inspired by the cartoon show Vicky the Viking, he would fill his school notebooks with a story he only referred to as pirate manga. And this pirate manga would eventually evolve into the short romance Dawn, which would eventually evolve into One Piece. Okay. So Oda has been thinking of this narrative and world for a very, very long time. Many of even the most recent characters in One Piece have existed in Oda's mind for years. You can go back through his old interviews and see just how far-thinking the story of One Piece actually is. Or even just look back at One Piece's early chapters and see...
This dude been creating One Piece in his mind his whole life. That is
seeds
dope.
that Oda has planted. For example, the character Silvers appears in a flashback in chapter 19, only to actually appear in the story and become a prominent character later on in chapter 500. And Oda constantly does this, seeding clues throughout the chapters of One Piece for us to discover and theorize over. Hell, I remember reading a blog post from 2015 that correctly predicted everything about Sanji's backstory that was revealed in the current arc, purely by virtue that his wanted poster said alive as opposed to dead or alive. Oda never feels like he's focused on just the next major arc or plot points, but instead on the long-running narrative of One Piece as a whole. And that's not even taking into account everything we don't know. As many of the threads as Oda has tied up during One Piece's run, there are so many more that are left tantalizingly open. How is it that Blackbeard is able to utilize 2 Devil Fruit powers at the same time?
I gotta learn
what
about
was
that
the
too.
gigantic Cthulhu-esque entity that appeared in the fog in the final panels of Thriller Bark? And my personal favourite, why in a nearly 900 chapter story about pirates has not a single character ever worn an eye patch? And of course the biggest of all, what exactly is One Piece?
Alright, so that's where I'm stopping it today. That looked like a good place to stop it, to segue into part 2 tomorrow. So listen, when I edit this video right now, I'm going to cut out parts that aren't too interesting. If you don't want me to do that and you just want to watch the whole video, let me know down in the comments, and tomorrow when I react to it, I'll just keep the whole video, you know what I'm saying? But I'm going to edit it and cut out the parts that I feel like aren't too interesting right now to make the video shorter. But if you want just the whole video, let me know down in the comments and I won't do that. I'm ready for part 2. So far it seems pretty good. He didn't get too much into like the story. I thought he was going to talk more about like the story, but this is more so him just selling you One Piece on like how detailed the author is, how detailed the characters are, how everybody has a backstory. So I guess it's good. He's not giving away anything. But anyway, I'm ready to see part 2 tomorrow. So far, man, my interest is still right here. It hasn't been moved up, but it hasn't been moved down either. So I'm still right there. But I'll react to part 2 tomorrow. I'll finish it tomorrow, and I'll let you guys know what's up.